If you could all please take your seats. I hope you've got some good refreshments because you're going to need them. It's going to be a really interesting night of new insights. And just before we begin, we recognise and pay respect to the elders and communities past, present and emerging of the lands that the University of Sydney's campuses stand on. For thousands of years, they have shared and exchanged knowledges across innumerable generations for the benefit of all. Now, thank you so much for joining us tonight to hear the Create Centre's presentation of the Serpentine series. This evening, we'll be hearing from Professor Michael Anderson, Professor Maree Teesson, and Associate Professor Emma Barrett on their deep dive into the power of play on young people and their well-being. Now, my name is Adiya Goswami. I'm a second-year economics and philosophy student here at the Sydney University, but the arts, performing arts and theatre has really been a staple and a passion of mine from a very young age, from the numerous programs in high school with the Department of Education's Arts Unit, School Spectacular, which then evolved to more recently working with Bell Shakespeare and the Australian Theatre for Young People. I've found that the arts, and for me in particular, theatre, has just been a place where I've made lifelong friends, been able to find a voice, and I really don't know how I would have gotten through high school without it. I think it's one of those magical platforms that you can understand a complete stranger, that you can bond over a story written 300, 400 years ago and still find something unique and valuable to take away. So with that being said, I'd like to hand it over to Professor Michael Anderson to give us his insights on the power of play on young people.
Thanks, Dia. And one of the reasons we wanted Dia to be here tonight because she is such a confident advocate of the arts through her life, and she's also not becoming an actor. She's going to make money in economics. So maybe one day she'll come back as a philanthropist. Thanks everyone for coming. This is a joint venture tonight between the Create Centre and the Matilda Centre. And it really constitutes a beginning for us. It's a beginning which is really a discussion about what might be possible if we fused the arts with wellbeing in early childhood. What we know about early childhood, and we hear it all the time from politicians, from policymakers, is it is critical to how our young people develop and grow. And we also hear from places all around the place how important the arts are. But yet we know that both of those sectors are underfunded. We know that early childcare workers are vulnerable in terms of their pay. We know that there's so much going on that is problematic in terms of the status of early childhood. We also know that there is like a lot of issues around mental health. And I think what the discussions between Robin Ewing, Maree Teesson and myself early on were talking about were what if we understood better the connection between the arts, between play and young people's mental well-being, right down at an early childhood level? What if we could actually get those aspects together to make a difference? And this tonight, I think, constitutes that beginning. And it's also an exercise in critical hope. It's an exercise in actually looking at these factors, putting them together and seeing what might be possible. As you'll hear from our speakers tonight, we haven't got to a point where we can say conclusively anything like we'd like to yet. But it is a foundation and a starting point so we can start to build something really exciting, I think. It's a testament to the power of partnerships with Serpentine and Matilda. Serpentine have made this possible, the Serpentine Foundation, and the relationship with Matilda have also made this possible. It's an opportunity to engage with and understand an area that we hear so much about, but we're actually starting to do something about. And so tonight is a starting point to make that possible. As you may know, the Create Centre works in areas where we apply the arts and creativity in different aspects of society and health and wellbeing and in education. And when this came up, we just wanted to be part of it because this is exactly the work that we were made to do. And we're excited by the opportunities and possibilities to do it. The Create Centre has been involved in lots of projects over the years and is involved in lots of projects with arts companies, with educators, with healthcare, lots of different projects. And for us, this really constitutes the excitement of what could be possible when we start to fuse artists, educators, and researchers together to understand what the power of the arts, what the power of play could be in creating mental wellness for our most young in early childhood and in other places. So thank you everyone for coming. I'm really looking forward to hearing from the researchers. I'm really looking forward to hearing from Maree to explain what the potential of this work is and what we've found and where we might go next. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks so much, Michael. And now I'll just get Maree Teesson to come on stage.
Thank you very much. And I have just oops, I'm not going to tell you what is the Create Centre. I'm going to flip on over to, here we are. So thank you very much, Michael, and thank you, Robin, for pulling this together, but also being so generous in your collaborations and your approach to working in this area. It did remind me that, you know, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And we really do have a long way to go in this space, but I am so excited about the opportunities of working in collaboration with both of you and with the people in the room about doing that. The opportunity here really built from work that we were starting to do at a embryonic level and then taking it through to research at Matilda Centre. So I'll just work out how I get to the next slide. There we are. So there's Matilda Centre. We don't spend all our time at the beach, people, trust me, but here we are at Bronte. And this is a centre here at the University of Sydney that is focused on mental health and substance use and improving the mental health of all in our society. So a healthier tomorrow for everyone is our aim. And in order to do that, we focus strongly on developing and evaluating innovative programs to prevent and treat mental health and substance use disorders. And critical for us is collaboration. And it's that magic when you get people together who share that passion and that shared vision that really then drives change for the better. And we have a lot to do. And for anyone working with mental health, for anyone who has any connection with young people, you will know that young people in the world and in Australia are facing a crisis. Just in Australia, over 65,000 Australians make a suicide attempt every year. 3,000 Australians will die by suicide. Suicide's a leading cause of death for Australians between 15 and 44 years of age. So that means young Australians are more likely to take their own life than die in motor vehicle accidents. It isn't good enough, and we need to be addressing this. And we can't wait till young people reach the age of 15. We have to be approaching this at a much younger and earlier age. Young people today face mega trends, they face financial hardships, they face climate change, they face uncertainty like we never faced. It is imperative that we as universities and as centres do all we can to change this story. And those spikes aren't across the board. Those spikes are happening in psychological distress to millennials and to Generation Z Australians and to younger, even younger Australians. So again, it is not okay for all of us who are over the age of 20 to be leaving a world for young children where this is their future. They are our future. They are They are 35% of the population and 100% of our future. They are 35% of the future workforce of the nation. What are we doing if this is their problems? So we at Matilda Centre started on the journey of engaging with young people, working in co-design. And the first thing they did was to say, you can't make this boring, Maree. Research is boring. Make it fun. And in order to do that, they introduced us to the worlds of art and creativity and storyboards and cartoons. And Michael and Robin are like, you took the young people to tell you to do this, Maree? But it's the best fun I have doing research, because we get to work with young people and use cartoon storyboards and the arts more broadly to engage and to embed psychological principles. Now, there's a lot of, I come from a very science medicine background. They're like, oh, arts, Maree, how does that fit in? We do randomized control trials, cluster randomized control trials, and we publish this stuff in the leading journals, medical journals in the world. This is serious, and it's serious science. And those digital interventions, cartoon storyboards in trials with over 24,000 young people improve young people's health across multiple areas. What I'm super excited about with the Serpentine series and 1, 2, 3 Play is taking this know-how and getting in earlier and working with younger children earlier. Our work at the moment has been around 11 and 12 and 13-year-olds. With Michael and Robin and with Create, we can get in earlier and help people and help young people to thrive. So this is Matilda Centre and our passion. The relationship is between clearly Michael, myself, Robin, Create, and Matilda, fed by the Serpentine, amazing support of Serpentine, but also Emma Barrett, who'll talk in a minute, and who is an author on the work. And I'm just trying to find Louise Birrell, Dr. Louise Birrell, Associate Professor Emma Barrett, and Anne Young. Thank you so much for your input from Matilda Centre on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maree, for showing us the fun side, the artistic side to research. Without further ado, can I please get Emma Barrett on stage to show us more?
Thank you, dear. All right. So yes, as Maree said, I will be presenting the results from our rapid review, which you'll have in your hands, which were provided on your chairs. And certainly it was a team effort. And so to acknowledge Lou Birrell, Eliza, Anne, and obviously Robin, Michael and Maree as well. So as stated in the National Mental Health Commission's National Children's Mental Health and Wellbeing Strategy Report, the imperative for promoting the wellbeing of children and preventing mental illness is clear from a moral, social, and economic perspective. And I think both Michael and Maree did a brilliant job at setting the scene as to why this is so important, and it's so important now. Just one point to add to that at the bottom there, that what's really exciting is that there's research that's growing to show how arts can facilitate a range of factors, including confidence, self-esteem, emotional expression, all factors which are associated with improved health and wellbeing. So what we wanted to do was to collate those studies in a rapid review and identify, describe, and critique the existing literature, examining mental health and wellbeing outcomes of arts inclusive programs specific for children aged 0 to 6 years, so that really early developmental period. So we conducted a search of a number of databases and used 3 key concepts: the arts, mental health and wellbeing, and young people aged 0 to 6. And so we had some eligibility criteria for those studies, peer-reviewed studies, studies that described arts exposure to young people in that age group, and of course, studies that described wellbeing outcomes. We conducted some screening of those studies and extracted relevant data. And importantly, too, we conducted an appraisal of the quality of those studies. And so we used the standard National Health and Medical Research Council level of evidence ranking matrix to rank the quality of each of those eligible studies. So a long story, in short, the search yielded 6,500 studies, And after removing duplicates and doing a title and abstract screen, we were left with 239 studies that went to full text review. And ultimately 9 articles were included in our study that met eligibility criteria. So this included 2 randomized control trials, 2 quasi-randomized control trials, 1 longitudinal study, 2 mixed method studies, and 2 qualitative studies. So in sum, when we go to results, there were 3 different types of art exposure that were described in each of those eligible studies. 4 studies included music exposure, most programs involving listening to music, singing, musical games, experimenting with musical instruments, and dancing. 3 studies included art making, craft making, drawing, painting, bubble making, and child-led play activities. And finally, 2 studies included storytelling. And this included role-playing, puppetry, picture drawing, photographs, brainstorming, and worksheets. So when looking at those first 4 studies that involved music, ultimately we concluded that while the study suggested really promising results, the small body of evidence, varying study designs, varying quality, and different outcome measures suggested there's limited evidence for the impacts of music exposure on young children. When looking at those 3 art studies that involved art making, we concluded that they had a positive impact on wellbeing among those who participated in the art making activities, and particularly in disadvantaged and minority groups, which is critical. And lastly, for the studies that explored storytelling, there's 2 of those studies, and both demonstrated positive impacts of storytelling on children's wellbeing. However, overall, we rated the body of evidence as limited. So in conclusion, all 9 studies consistently yielded positive findings of art exposure on young children's mental health and wellbeing. Interestingly, it appeared that a combination of both the arts exposure and the social interactions were critical for positive outcomes. Interestingly, too, a number of studies explored arts exposure in socioeconomically disadvantaged young children and found an association between program engagement and that being critical in improving wellbeing. So we thought it's important to highlight the gaps in the existing literature to give us a bit of an indication of where to go next. So as I've mentioned, there was a dearth of studies focusing on this specific age group. During screening, we noticed there was quite a lot of literature on older children, but not so much on children aged between 0 and 6. And among those studies that were eligible, there was really limited quality. So no study was rated as high quality based on our criteria. The types of studies investigating arts exposure in young children too seem to be quite diverse in their study outcomes. And so we're really limited in terms of making insights into generalizability, and also really looking at those mechanisms. What is it that makes arts exposure impactful for young people's wellbeing? So most importantly, we got together and thought about some really key recommendations from these findings. And more research it's quite clear from the outcomes that there's more research needed. And we would recommend that future research needs to implement more robust research design and methodology, RCTs where we can, combining both self-report and clinician assessments for wellbeing outcomes. Future projects would benefit from multidisciplinary teams, bringing together the evidence from the arts and mental health, and building in co-design and lived experience expertise. And lastly, future research could identify specific therapeutic components or those mechanisms of change by which arts exposure enhances wellbeing. And so excitingly, we are thinking about ways in which we can progress in this space. And I will leave it to our esteemed centre directors, Michael and Maree, who have spoken on this video, and I'd ask Thomas to look like.
Thousands of children have been affected by the climate change catastrophe in Australia. Anxiety in children is now double pre-pandemic rates and expected to rise. And our parents and educators are ill-equipped to address this.
1, 2, 3 Play will use play to build foundational social and emotional skills in 3 to 6-year-olds during the critical transition to school.
Children's and carers' skills will be improved through play, enabling them to process adverse events in a safe and creative environment.
1. Children are invited to contemplate an issue that is of concern to them. In Australia, this could be a burnt-out landscape.
2, children respond to this through a range of playful languages.
3, children express their response, externalising the children's thinking, providing teachers with a starting point to enter into the child's experience.
We will provide the training and support materials parents, educators and caregivers need to do this. We are taking this simple intervention, testing it across our network of school and early learning centre partners with 4,000 children and then deploying it at scale across Australia and internationally.
For the first time, we'll be bringing the rigour of a randomised control trial together with participatory action research and play to provide indisputable evidence of the role of play in children's wellbeing in an ever more stressful world.
Found it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. And I think just even anecdotally, it's not hard to see the immense positive impact that play and expressing yourself through the arts has on any young person. So just for me as a young person in the arts, it's so incredible to see that anecdotal evidence grounded in concrete research. And not only that, but also that there's a highlighted path ahead to what more we can do. So can we please have another round of applause for our speakers? I'm sure we'll wrap up this formal part of the Q&A.